A freshman senator just introduced a bill that would strip United States citizenship from the First Lady of the United States, from Elon Musk, and from somewhere in between 500,000 and 5.7 million Americans who currently hold dual citizenship. And here's the thing that might surprise you. A lot of people actually agree with this, particularly historically. I'm Brad with Evolution Expats, and for over 10 years I've helped people navigate the complex world of second residency and citizenship. And this bill, the Exclusive Citizenship Act of 2025, is something every single one of you needs to understand, whether you already hold dual citizenship, whether you're in the process of getting it, or whether you've just been thinking about it. In this video, I'll explain why this bill is dead on arrival, but why the political signal it sends is actually dangerous for your plan B. Immigration laws are changing weekly now. If you want to know about these bills before they become law, make sure you are subscribed and leave a like so that the content I make for you actually gets sent to you. All right, now let's talk about what actually happened. On December 1st, 2025, Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican from Ohio, introduced Senate Bill 3283, officially titled the Exclusive Citizenship Act of 2025. The bill's stated purpose is simple: to establish that citizens of the United States shall owe, quote, sole and exclusive allegiance to the United States. What does that mean in practice? If this bill became law, anyone who holds both American citizenship and the citizenship of another country would have exactly 1 year to make a choice. Either submit a written renunciation of the foreign citizenship to the Secretary of State, or submit a written renunciation of your American citizenship to the Secretary of Homeland Security. If you fail to do either within that 1 year window, you would be, quote, deemed to have voluntarily relinquished United States citizenship. You would be reclassified as an alien under immigration law, subject to visa requirements, potentially deportable, regardless of how long you had lived in the United States, how much you had contributed, or whether even you were born there. And it gets more aggressive. Under this bill, any American citizen who acquires foreign citizenship after the law takes effect would automatically and immediately be deemed to have relinquished their United States citizenship. No grace period, no appeal. You get a second passport, you would lose your American one. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you something that most commentators won't say. I actually think there's philosophical merit to this idea, and I think understanding why reveals something important about where we are historically and where we might be headed. Here's what most people don't realize. Dual citizenship, as we know it today, is not typical. It is not the historical default. It's actually a very recent experiment, and for most of human history, the very idea would have been considered absurd. In 1849, the American diplomat George Bancroft said that nations should, quote, as soon tolerate a man with two wives as a man with two countries. In 1915, President Theodore Roosevelt called dual citizenship a, quote, self-evident absurdity. And the law at the time reflected this. Through the middle of the 20th century, you could lose your American citizenship for voting in a foreign election, for serving in a foreign military, or naturalizing in another country. As late as 1990, only about 25% of countries worldwide permitted dual citizenship, 1 in 4. So, what changed? In 1967, a Supreme Court case called Ephraim versus Rusk, the court ruled 5-4 that the 14th Amendment protects citizens from having their citizenship stripped without their voluntary consent. That cracked open the door. Then the Cold War ended, migration exploded, and countries started wanting to maintain ties with their diasporas. By 2016, over 80% of countries in Europe and the Americas permitted dual citizenship. We went from 1 in 4 to 4 in 5 in basically one generation. So when Senator Moreno introduces a bill saying Americans should have sole allegiance to America, he's not proposing something radical. He's proposing a return to what was normal for most of history. The radical experiment is what we're living through right now. I know this history surprises some people, and I know this is a heated topic. So I've compiled a free source sheet with links to the full text of the Moreno bill, the Supreme Court rulings, and the historical archives that I have mentioned. It's linked in the description, and I encourage you to read the primary sources yourself before you try and light me up in the comments. Now, does that mean this bill is going to pass? No, absolutely not. And let me explain why. First, let's look at who introduced it. Bernie Moreno was sworn in January 2025. He's a freshman senator with less than a year of his first term completed. He has no prior political experience. Before this, he was a car dealer in Cleveland. He has 0 co-sponsors on this bill. Not one other senator has signed on. There is no bipartisan support. There is no indication that Republican leadership has any interest in advancing it. Legislative forecasting models put the probability of this bill becoming law at roughly 3%. This is what we call performative legislation. It's a press release dressed up as a bill. Senator Moreno gets to say that he introduced tough legislation on citizenship. He gets media coverage. He gets to appeal to a certain portion of his base. But there's no realistic path this becomes law. And by the way, there's something else worth noting about Senator Moreno. He was born in Colombia. He immigrated to the United States as a child and became a citizen at 18. At that point, he renounced his Colombian citizenship. So he's already made the choice he's asking others to make, which you could argue gives him credibility on the issue. Or you could argue that he's pulling up the ladder behind him. I'll leave that to you to decide. There is also the constitutional problem. Afroyim versus Rusk and Vance versus Terrazas are still the law of the land. For this bill to survive, the Supreme Court would have to overturn 60 years of its own precedent. Legal scholars across the political spectrum have said that this bill is, quote, fundamentally incompatible with constitutional architecture. Professor Peter Spiro at Temple University, who literally wrote a book on dual citizenship, told Newsweek that this bill, if it somehow passed, the Supreme Court would, quote, almost certainly strike it down as unconstitutional. So we can all relax, right? The bill won't pass, and the courts would kill it even if it did. Nothing to worry about. Not so fast. Let me rewind the clock a little bit and tell you about Ted Cruz. In 2013, Ted Cruz discovered something that surprised even him. He was a dual citizen of the United States and Canada. He didn't even know he had Canadian citizenship, but once it became public in the lead up to the presidential run that he made, the political pressure was immediate. Cruz renounced his Canadian citizenship within months. His statement was interesting. He said, quote, nothing against Canada, but I'm an American by birth, and as a U.S. Senator, I believe I should be only an American. Does that sound familiar? That's almost the exact principle behind the Moreno bill, and Ted Cruz didn't need a law to force him to make that choice. Public pressure was enough. This is the point I really want you to understand. You don't need a law to change behavior. You need political and social pressure, and that pressure is clearly building in the United States and worldwide. Look at what else is happening in Congress right now. Representative Thomas Massie has introduced the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act, which would require candidates for federal office to disclose any foreign citizenship that they hold. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and Andy Biggs are co-sponsors for that bill. There's another bill, the Disqualifying Dual Loyalty Act of 2025, that would outright bar anyone with dual citizenship from serving in Congress. These bills probably won't pass either, but the fact that they're being introduced, that they are getting co-sponsors, and that they're part of the political conversation tells you something about where the wind is blowing. And here's something that most Americans may not realize. Other democracies worldwide already do this. In Australia, Section 44 of their constitution explicitly forbids anyone who holds dual allegiance to a foreign power from sitting in parliament. This isn't theoretical. In 2017 and 2018, 15 members of the Australian parliament were found to be ineligible because they held dual citizenship, often without even knowing it. They were removed from office. Some had to recontest their seats after renouncing their other citizenship. In Israel, members of the Knesset and diplomats must renounce any foreign citizenship before taking office. In Egypt and Armenia, dual citizens cannot be elected to parliament at all. In Colombia, dual citizens are prohibited from serving as Minister of Foreign Affairs or Minister of Defense. The United States is actually unusual in having no disclosure requirement whatsoever. We don't know how many members of Congress hold dual citizenship because they're not required to tell us. The Senate's own records show that 5 current senators were born abroad, and 28 current House members were born abroad. Some of them may still hold their dual citizenships, some may not. We simply don't know. So, when someone introduces a bill saying that maybe we should know, or maybe there should be limits, they're not proposing something unprecedented. They're proposing that America catch up with practices that are already standard in other democracies. Now, let's talk about the irony of this particular bill because it is significant. If the Exclusive Citizenship Act became law, one of the people who would have to make that choice is Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States. According to Mary Jordan's biographies and multiple news reports, Melania Trump holds dual citizenship in the United States and Slovenia. She became a naturalized U.S. citizen in 2006, but she never renounced her Slovenian citizenship. This bill would require the First Lady to publicly renounce her birth country. Imagine that press conference. So, her son Barron also holds dual U.S. and Slovenian citizenship. According to reporting, Melania specifically wanted Barron to have Slovenian citizenship because it would allow him to work freely anywhere in the European Union. It gives him options. And then there's Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. currently or previously this year heading the Department of Government Efficiencies. He holds 3 citizenships: South African by birth, Canadian through his mother, and America through naturalization in 2002. Under this bill, he'd have to pick one and give up the other 2. The head of the Department of Government Efficiency would technically be fired by his own administration's logic. And depending on how you interpret citizenship by descent laws, several of President Trump's own children might have to claim Czech or Slovenian citizenship through their mothers. So you have a Republican senator introducing a bill that would force the Republican president's wife, his son, one of his closest advisors, and potentially his other children to renounce foreign citizenships or lose their American citizenship. David Lesperance, a prominent citizenship attorney, pointed out that this bill would force, quote, almost all of Donald Trump's own children to make a choice. That's not a particular recipe for legislative success. That's a recipe for a bill that dies quietly in committee, which is exactly what's going to happen. But here's what I want you to take away from all of this. At Evolution Expats, our position has always been that preparation is the best policy. And what this bill represents, even though it won't pass, is a signal. It's a weather vane. It tells you which way the political winds are blowing in the United States and worldwide. 20 years ago, dual citizenship was barely a political issue in the United States. Today, you have bills being introduced to ban it, bills being introduced to require the disclosure of it, and bills to bar dual citizens from Congress entirely. You have public figures like Ted Cruz renouncing foreign citizenship because of political pressure, not a legal requirement. The window for dual citizenship is open today, and it has been open for about 30 years, which is a blink of an eye in historical terms. There's no guarantee that it stays open forever. In fact, if history is any guide, the current permissiveness around dual citizenship is the exception, not the rule. So, what should you actually do? If you already hold dual citizenship, don't panic. This bill is not going to pass. Your status is protected by 60 years of Supreme Court precedent. No one is coming for your passport tomorrow. But you should make sure your documentation is impeccable. Make sure your U.S. tax filings are current and complete. If you ever did need to make a choice in the future, you want to be doing it on your terms, not scrambling to fix paperwork problems. If you are currently in the process of obtaining a second citizenship, possibly by descent or through naturalization in another country, keep going. Finish what you have started. Get your documents. Get that passport. Having it in hand is always better than having it theoretically. And if you've ever been thinking about getting started, if you've been telling yourself you're going to look into your Italian citizenship through your grandmother or Irish citizenship through your great-grandparents or any of the other pathways that might be available to you, this is your sign. Stop thinking about it and start doing it. Not because this bill is going to pass, it's not, but because the political appetite for restricting dual citizenship is clearly growing, and because other countries are already tightening their citizenship by descent programs. Because the documents you need, the birth certificates, the marriage certificates, the naturalization records, those will get harder to obtain every year as records are lost or archives are closed. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. The same is true for second citizenships. At Evolution Expats, this is the exact kind of situation we help people navigate. Whether you're exploring citizenship by descent through Italian, Irish, Polish, Greek, or other ancestry, or you're looking at residency pathways that lead to naturalization, or if you just want to understand your options before you need them. That's what we do. If you want expert guidance on your specific situation, book a consultation with us at Evolution Expats. The link is in the description. This is exactly why working with someone who understands these programs matters, because by the time a law passes, by the time everyone is talking about it, the best opportunities are usually already gone. If you found this video valuable, make sure you check out our document hygiene playlist. Getting your vital records organized is the foundation of any citizenship application, and most people don't realize how long it can take until they're already in the middle of the process. That playlist will walk you through all the things that you need to know to get your documents in order. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. We cover every development in the world of second citizenships and international mobility, so you will not be caught off guard. Remember, the right information makes it all possible. I'm Brad with Evolution Expats, and I'll see you in our next video.